welcome back to another molecular biology classes. Today we'll go on to study about gene expression. So what do you understand by gene expression? It is nothing but the regulation of gene in an essential feature in maintaining the functional integrity of a cell. So there are mechanisms where there is increase or decrease of expression of genes which can occur through a variety of mechanisms, and it involves regulation of the transcription. So most of it by the transcription proteins or by the RNA polymerase enzyme, or also the transcription factors will play an important role in gene expression. So this regulatory protein binds to specific DNA sequence, and this is associated with both the prokaryotic and the eukaryotic gene region. So we'll go on to understand first what are the names which we will be studying more frequently. Like for example, gene. It is a unit of gene DNA located on the chromosome which has a genetic information that passes on from one generation to the other generation. So introns are intervening nucleotide sequence in the mRNA which do not code for the proteins, whereas there are exons which possesses the genetic information or codes and are responsible for protein synthesis. Then there is cistron. These are the smallest unit of the genetic expression, a fragment of the DNA coding for a particular protein molecule. Okay, so first we'll understand with the introduction of gene expression. What is it? It is synthesis of a protein under the influence of a gene. We call it as gene expression. So it is controlled at the transcriptional levels. There is positive regulation and negative regulation, and these are regulated by inducible and constituent gene. So this concept of gene expression is based on operon model which was postulated by Jacob and Modem. So what do you mean by operon? Operon is a segment of a DNA which contains a site for structural genes that codes for specific proteins or enzymes. So we will study this operon mechanism by lag operon. It is a coordinated unit of gene expression to make the enzymes necessary to metabolize lactose. So this is about the prokaryotic gene expression. Okay, so whenever we talk about the lag operon, you should also know the structure of the lag operon. So it contains a regulatory gene, that is LAG-I, that produces a repressor protein, and then you have the promoter site P for the binding of the RNA polymerase enzyme. Then you have the operator site, that is O, a regulatory protein which we call it as a lag repressor. And then you have three structural genes Z, Y and A that codes for beta galactosidase, galactosidase permease and thiogalactoside transacetylase enzyme. So we look into this is the lag operon, we can see here. So this is the regulator gene and these two are the control site, and then you have the structural genes Z, Y and A. So the regulatory gene by transcription leads to the formation of mRNA, and this by translation synthesizes the repressor protein, and this repressor protein regulates the lag genes, right? So we said that Z, Y and A are the structural genes, right? So the Z is for beta galactosidase, the Y is for the permease, and A is for the transacetylase. These are called as a polycistronic lag mRNA. Through this, these enzymes are synthesized. So now what is the function of beta galactosidase? It is hydrolysis of the lactose into glucose and galactose. Permease is an enzyme that is required for the transport of the lactose into the cell, and transacetylase, it helps in detoxification of the compounds, right? So this is the structure of the lag operon. Okay, so next we'll go on to what we said, lagopron is nothing but it regulates the lactase metabolism in the E. coli. E. coli is grown in glucose. In the absence of glucose, lactose is used. So beta galactosidase, the structural gene, it is an enzyme, hydrolyzes lactose into the galactose and glucose. Permease is required for the transport of the lactose across the cell membrane, and transacetylase is required for the detoxification of compounds. So we will study the lag-operon concept in three mechanisms, right? So one will be in the presence of glucose, and then the other in the presence of lactose, and then you have in the presence of both the galactose, lactose and glucose. So first we'll go on to study about the in the presence of glucose what happens. The lactose is absent. Okay, so the repressor protein binds to the operator sequence and blocks the movement of the RNA polymerase along the template, thus inhibiting the transcription. So this is a repressor protein effect on the negative control. So when glucose is present, the RNA polymerase movement is prevented. So the template thus inhibiting the transcription. So this is known as the repressor protein effect on the negative control. Now we'll go on to the next one, that is when there is presence of lactose, what happens? Few molecules of lactose enters into the cell and are metabolized to allolactose. This binds to the repressor, changing its conformation and preventing it from binding to the operator. So what happens here? Glucose is absent. So what happens? The cyclic AMP levels are high, and this cyclic AMP binds to the cap, forming a complex that binds to the cap binding site and stimulates the binding of the RNA polymerase to the promoter site. Now when this is bound to the RNA polymerase to the promoter site, it is a positive control. So the transcription of the structural genes occurs and the polycistronic mRNA is translated to produce all the three enzymes, right? So this is the positive control. So next we'll go on to where there is presence of both the lactose and glucose. What will happen here? The lactose is present. Allolactose will form and prevent the repressor from binding to the operator. However, because glucose is present, the cyclic AMP will be again less or low. So the cap protein remains in the inactive form. Because the cap binding site is empty, the RNA polymerase is not able to effectively bind to the promoter site. So transcription will not occur, and this effect of glucose is called as a catabolite repression. So when both glucose and lactose is present, there is repression of this gene. Okay, so we'll see in the next the flow chart of what exactly happens. So whenever there is glucose present, we call it as operon is off. That means the adenyl cyclase is inactive in the presence of glucose, and cap is not bound to the cyclic AMP catabolite repression. So you can see the cap is here, and here you can see there is RNA polymerase movement is not further from the promoter site. So again this is repression, that is operon is off. So but when you see here, when there is no glucose and only lactose is present, that means the operon is off. You can see the adenyl cyclase is active, and in the absence of glucose produces cyclic AMP that binds to the cap, and this RNA polymerase is getting activated and it binds to the promoter site, as you can see, and leads to the formation of the operon. So this will lead to the synthesis of the mRNA, and these enzymes are synthesized. So this is known as operon on. Then here you can see there is presence of both glucose and lactose. This condition again you can see it is operon off. What happens here? The adenyl cyclase is still in the inactive form, and presence of glucose and cap is not bound to the cyclic AMP. Okay, so what happens? The RNA polymerase cannot move further. So this again there is operon off, or there is no synthesis of the polycistronic mRNA. So this is operon off even when there is glucose and lactose which is present. Okay, so this is the concept of lag operon in the prokaryotic for the gene expression. So next we'll go on to the gene expression, regulation of gene expression in the eukaryotes. Okay, so the regulation of gene expression in the eukaryote, we can study it in different levels. So the first one is a DNA level, that we call it as a replicational level. Then you have the transcriptional level, post-transcriptional level, translational levels, and the post-translational levels. Okay, so you can see in this diagram, as we know that DNA copies itself, that's a replication, so that is the DNA level. Then from DNA to mRNA, that's the transcriptional level. Then the post-transcriptional level for the mRNA itself. Then mRNA to proteins, that we call it as the translational levels, and post-translational levels, it is the protein synthesis. So these are the 5 steps where we will study about the gene expression in the eukaryotes. So first we'll go on to the gene regulation at the DNA levels. You have a number of them. Okay, so the first one is a gene amplification, that is many copies of the gene can be generated at certain stages of the normal development. Okay, then you have the gene rearrangement. So certain segments of the DNA may move from one location to the other in the genome associated with various protein production. Example you have is gene rearrangement occurs in the B cells that produces the immunoglobulins. And then you have certain places where there is gene loss. So certain genes are either deleted or partially deleted from the cells. For example, during the development of the RBCs, the immature erythrocytes contain nuclei that produces the mRNA for globulin chain of the hemoglobin. So certain genes can be either deleted or partially deleted. And then you have another methylation of the DNA. So the methylase enzyme during the DNA replication methylates the daughter DNA strand. So either there is removal of this group, or sometimes there is activation of this particular group will be seen in a particular gene. So example for this, you have the bar body of the chromosome which can be methylated in this gene, right? And then you have something which we call it as chromosomal packing, that is accessibility of the transcription. This is in the transcriptional regulation. So the tight packing of the DNA, the whole chromosome can be made inaccessible to transcriptional mechanism or the machinery and the regulatory factors through formation of inactive heterochromatin. So thereby the transcription machinery will not be able to access the DNA that is synthesized and found in the chromosome. Then there is methylation of the eukaryotic DNA may play also an important role in maintaining the inactive heterochromatin. This is one of the mechanisms in the transcriptional regulation. So then you have the next one, that is you have individual gene regulation, that is the regulatory factors. So we all know that there are a number of regulatory factors that play an important role in transcription. So these are the promoters and the transcriptional factors to initiate transcriptions, right? So the transcription factors binds to the promoter and enhances the site, and factors are required for the RNA polymerase to attach and form a loop in the DNA strand. Sometimes these factors are classified according to the structures of their DNA binding domain, like we call the zinc finger proteins, helix turn helix protein, leucine zipper protein, helix loop helix proteins, and steroid receptors. So these are all the transcriptional regulation, right? So next we'll go on to the post-transcriptional regulation. So under the post-transcriptional regulation, these mechanisms control or regulate the mRNA after it is produced. So there are two major regulations. One is the alternate splicing and the other one is regulation of the RNA stability. So the alternate splicing is there is differential splicing or the removal of introns. It enables a gene to code for one or more different protein. Okay, for example, you have in thyroid gland, a calcitonin gene is produced. It transcripts the code for hormone calcitonin, and the same gene expressed is in the neurons, and it produces a transcript that codes for a calcitonin, which is a peptide. Now, this mRNA coding for these two products have the same first two coding exons, but only differ in the third coding exon. Okay, so this is alternate splicing. Then you have the regulation of the RNA stability. So this takes place in the nucleus or the cytoplasm. So when it takes place in the nucleus, the gene produces heterogeneous nuclear RNA, which in some cells is not processed to mRNA, and it is transported to the cytoplasm. So these are degraded in the nucleus itself. Okay, so in the cytoplasm, what happens? The stability of the mRNA can control the availability of the mRNA for translation in the cytoplasm. So this is the regulation of RNA stability. So next you have in mRNA stability you have, so this is different genes may vary in their half-life. So some genes that code for abundant product with a long duration of action such as the beta globulin gene may produce mRNA that has a long half-life. Certain genes may code for a product with a short duration of action. Example like growth factors may produce an mRNA that has short half-life. Okay, so certain sequences within the 3' untranslated region of the unstable mRNA are responsible for rapid degradation. So there is another one concept which says the longer the poly A tail, the longer the half-life of the mRNA function. Okay, so this is about the mRNA stability. So next you have something which we call as a RNA editing. So RNA editing means that is change in the base sequence of the RNA after transcription by processes other than the RNA splicing. Okay, so what is it? It is change in the base sequence of the RNA after transcription by processing other than the RNA splicing. So these involves the enzyme mediated alteration of base sequence of RNA in the cell nucleus before translation. So this can involve either insertion, deletion or substitution of the nucleotides in the RNA. So for example, you have gene of apolipoprotein B and ApoP gene, which are examples of RNA editing. So in this diagram you can see, so this is the ApoB gene. By transcription, it leads to the formation of glutamine codon, that is CAA. So here you have the unedited mRNA. So what happens here? The unedited mRNA, okay, what happens? The RNA editing is being done here by an enzyme, deaminase enzyme, and ammonia is released. This leads to the synthesis of the stop codon, that is UAA. So that is the edited mRNA. So this mRNA, it helps in the translation in the intestine and leads to the synthesis of ApoB48 in the intestine. Whereas you have another segment of this ApoB gene which is found in the liver, which is unedited mRNA enters into the liver, which is made up of ApoB100, which is present in the liver. So this is the RNA editing, right? So next we'll go on to the translational regulation. So we all know in translational you have lot of factors. Okay, that is the EF factors, that is the initiation factor 1 and 2, you have plenty of them. So eukaryotic translation controls affects the initiation of protein synthesis. So the action of the initiation factor is affected by phosphorylation by the protein kinase enzymes. So the reticulocytes which do not contain the nuclei and no DNA for transcription must regulate the synthesis of globulin at the transcriptional level. So here you can see the heme deficiency that leads to accumulation of misfoldings of the proteins in the rough endoplasmic reticulum, right? So you can see the initiation factor 2 plus ATP. When there is presence of phosphorylation, it gets converted into the initiation factor 2 and it gets phosphorylated. But whenever there is no kinase, it doesn't get converted into the phosphorylated initiation factor. So here again there is regulation of the gene expression in this process. Okay, this is one mechanism in translational regulation. So next you have certain more regulations in translation. So certain mRNAs contain an hairpin loop at the 5' end and can bind to the proteins that inhibit initiation of translation. For example, the ferritin protein is involved in the storage of iron and are synthesized when iron levels are only increased. And then the mRNA for ferritin has a hairpin loop near its 5' end that binds a regulatory protein when the iron levels are low. Thus, translation does not take place. Whereas when the iron levels are increased, what happens? The iron binds to the protein and thus changes the shape and no longer binds to the ferritin mRNA, and thus the mRNA is translated and ferritin is produced, right? So this is about the mRNA which has an hairpin loop for the ferritin levels, right? Next we'll go on to these are all the translational regulation. Next, the post-translational control or the regulation. So here you have three mechanisms, that is the protein activation, then you have the feedback control, then you have the protein degradation or protein turnover. So what do you mean by protein activation? Some proteins are not active when they are synthesized. They have to undergo modifications such as folding or enzymatic cleavage or bond formation. So you have example, the bovine proinsulin is a precursor to the hormone insulin, but it has to be cleaved into 2 polypeptide chains and 30 amino acids have to be removed to form the active form of the insulin, right? And then you have the feedback control. Certain enzymes in the metabolic pathway may be negatively inhibited by the product of the same pathway. And what do you mean by protein degradation? So proteins are continuously synthesized and broken down, which we call it as a protein turnover. Ubiquit or small protein targets intracellular proteins for degradation. It is a marker for protein degradation, right? So these are the post-translational modification or control, right? So we'll just understand in the next slide. So the gene expression in the prokaryotic cell. So the first from the DNA to the primary RNA, the transcriptional control, and then you have the RNA processing control, right? And then all this happens in the nucleus. So in the cytosol, you have the mRNA stability control, then you have the translational control, then the transport control, and then you have the post-translational control, which helps in the formation of active or the inactive protein. Yeah. So this next slide, we'll have a overall picture of how the regulation of gene expression takes place in the eukaryotic. So by transcription, the trans-acting proteins are binding to the cis-acting elements on the DNA, and then you have the DNA binding moieties such as the zinc fingers and also the steroid hormone receptor complex, okay, binding to the GRE. And then you have the co and the post transcription event variation in the mRNA and processing and stability. Then you have the splice site, poly A tail, right, the site of choice to bind, mRNA editing you have. Then you have the translation, that is the phosphorylation of the initiation factor, and then the amino acid starvation or the heme deficiency, which leads to the RNA and unfolding of the proteins in the endoplasmic reticulum. Then the DNA you have three processes, that is changes in the access to the DNA either by acetylation, deacetylation or the methylation. Then changes in the amount of DNA, that is the amplification, gene amplification. Then changes in the arrangement of the DNA of the immunoglobulins especially. So this is the whole concept of gene expression in the eukaryotes, right? So next we'll go on to another uh, uh, protein targeting. Okay, so what do you mean by protein targeting or protein sorting? It is nothing but a mechanism by which a cell transports protein to appropriate positions in a cell or outside the cell. So the proteins, when it is synthesized, it can be targeted to the inner space of an organelle, right? So it can be transported to different intracellular membranes and also to the plasma membrane or to the exterior of the cell via secretions. Okay, so these are known as a protein sorting or protein targeting. So the two general mechanism by which the sorting takes place is the protein is synthesized in the cytoplasm and then the completed protein is delivered to the intracellular location by post-translational. And then you have another mechanism, that is a secretory pathway, the direct proteins into the endoplasmic reticulum code translationally, that is while the protein is being synthesized. So we'll just have a look at the protein sorting or protein targeting. So you can see protein sorting mechanism, the cytosolic and the rough endoplasmic reticulum by co-translational transport. So the cytoplasmic post-translational transport, you have the mitochondrial protein, nuclear protein, peroxisomal protein and the cytosolic protein. Whereas the rough endoplasmic co-translational transport, it takes place via the vesicle transport to the Golgi apparatus. So it leads to the synthesis of secretory protein, lysosomal enzymes, plasma membrane proteins, Golgi apparatus, membrane and the endoplasmic reticulum membrane. Okay, so when we talk about protein targeting, there are certain defects in the protein targeting which leads to certain diseases. So you have a number of them. So we'll just have a look at some of them. The Zulwer syndrome, this is due to the defect in oxidation of very long chain fatty acids. The peroxisomal enzymes are produced, but their entry into the peroxisome is not there. So this leads to insufficiency of oxidation of the very long chain fatty acids. So accumulation in the CNS causes neurological impairment and death in the childhood. Okay. Then you have primary hyperoxaluria, that is causes renal stones at an early age due to defect in the enzyme alanine glyoxylate amino transferase enzyme, and it is seen in the mitochondria instead of the normal peroxisomal location. Then you have familial hypercholesterolemia. This is due to defect in the deficiency in transport signals. Causes of cystic fibrosis include localization of the proteins. Then you have something inclusion cell disease, or we also call as eye cell disease. This is due to the non-entry of the normal enzymes into the lysosomes. So the mannose 6-phosphate, which is a marker enzyme of lysosome, is absent in this condition. Okay, so this is called as a protein targeting. Protein targeting itself can come as a 3-mark question. Okay, or sometimes it can come as a 5-mark also. So today we finished with the gene expression in the prokaryotes and in the eukaryotes. So gene expression, the lag operon concept can come as a long note and also it can come as a short note. Eukaryotic gene expression, you can get many of them as a short note. So you'll have to know how to answer for a 5-mark question or a 3-mark question. So next you have biology to be submitted on the 27th, that's next Wednesday. So these are the questions. You have long essays, short essays and short answers. So long essays, you have defined replication, Describe the process of replication in eukaryotes. Name the inhibitors of DNA replication and its clinical importance. Define transcription. Describes the steps of initiation, elongation, termination of transcription. Then you have define translation, steps of initiation, elongation, termination of translation, and also add a note on the inhibitors of protein biosynthesis. Discuss the different types of DNA damages and their repair mechanisms. Describe the regulation of gene expression in eukaryotes. And you have is a short essays, that is genetic code, frame shift mutation, post-transcriptional modifications, then Okazaki fragments, operon concept, cell cycle, point mutation. And you have the short answers. Introns and exons, Wobbles hypothesis for codon-anticodon interaction, role of chaperones in protein folding, reverse transcriptase, what is central dogma of molecular biology, RNA polymerase, telomerase. Then next question is give examples of nonsense, silent mutation and missense mutation. Mention eukaryotic DNA polymerase and their role in replication, exonucleases and endonucleases, diseases resulting from failure of post-translational modification. So please write these questions and submit it by next Wednesday, that's the 27th. So in this class we finished with gene expression in the prokaryotes and also in the eukaryotes. So these are the assignment questions. So kindly finish it and submit it by 27th. So thank you. Have a nice day.